Hi everyone, I hope that you are enjoying your cold day and staying warm. We're going to do a little bit of math together and then you're free to go enjoy your cold day. So let me get my computer set up here. So take out notebook, paper, something where you can write this. I can give you a copy of these notes when we get back to school this week. But in the meantime, let's do some math. And you're going to need your calculator for this. So you'll see I have the graphing calculator up on the screen. That's going to help us really solve a lot of these problems today. So our first topic is rational exponents. So the unit fraction exponents and bases involving signs. So when we talk about rational exponents, they're fractions. So you'll see here I have negative 49 to the 1/2. So that's like saying negative 1 times 49 to the 1/2. Now, if you remember, when we were talking about indexes and exponents before, remember something to the 1/2 is actually the square root. That little index is a 2, but we don't write it when it's a 2. So this is really negative 1 times the square root of 49. 49 is a perfect square, so we know we have negative 1 times 7, which is negative 7. The other way you could have done this is just plain typed negative 49 to the 1 divided by 2, and it'll get you back that negative 7. The example below that is negative 343 to the 1/3. You'll notice the negative is inside this time. So that means that's okay to do when we have odd roots. And this is the same thing as taking the cube root of negative 343, which I can do that by raising negative 343 to the 1/3. So I'll show you that. Negative 343 to the 1 divided by 3. That'll get me negative 7 again. Or if you haven't seen before, because this is a cube root, if I go math, and then I can scroll down to the cube button under the math menu, or if it's a different number other than 2 or 3, you can use option 5. So those will help us a little bit later on. So if I take a look at example 2, I have negative 25 to the 1/2. The negative is technically on the outside, so this is really negative square root of 25. 25 is a perfect square, so this gives us negative 5. With our next one, we have negative 216 to the 1/3. Now you'll notice the 216 is not in parentheses, so the negative is out front. Cube root of 216. And then if I go ahead and type that in, I'm just going to type that in. Negative 216 to the 1 divided by 3. I get negative 6. So a lot of this right now is calculators. So again, if we have something to the 1/3, that's the same thing as the cube root. And just looking at those. So now rational exponents, non-unit fraction exponent with whole number base. So assume that a variable represents a positive number. So we don't have to worry about absolute values here. There's no variable. So just the numbers are positive. So one of the things that we're going to do here is I'll show you the way without the calculator so you can think about it that way, and then I'll show you the way with the calculator. Remember when we had x to the b over a is the same thing as the index, which is a, x to the b. So we have exponent over index. That index is the a. So b is the exponent, a is the index. So this is really taking, I like to do the index, the root first, this is the 5th root of 32, and then we're going to square it. So if I look at the 5th root of 32, that's 2. I'm going to square that. I get 4. Your handy dandy calculator also comes in handy this time too, because you can take 32, raise it to the 2/5, and you get back 4. Same kind of idea applies with 27 to the 4/3. I'm going to do the cube root first. I can tell because that index is down below. The cube root of 27 is 3. So I'm going to take 3, raise it to the 4th, and that'll give me an 81. So we're working with rational exponents. And keep in mind where that index is, where the exponent is, so that you can keep track of whether you're doing a root or raising it to a power. That is the exponent. Negative exponents and fractional bases. So negative exponents are interesting because when you have, I'll move this over here for a second. Oh, I guess not. Let's see. So if I end up having x to the negative a, that's 1 over x to the a. It goes down below. So this is really, I'll show you without a calculator and then I'll show you with a calculator. This is really 1 over 27 to the 4/3, which I'll rewrite as 1 over cube root of 27 to the 4th, which is 1 over 3 to the 4th, which is 1 over 81. With the calculator, if I type 27 and raise it, so for me, the calculator makes the exponent little. If it's not doing that for you, essentially what you're going to type is 27 caret negative 4 over 3. So that little caret button will appear instead of putting it up in the power. But mine is working this way for now, so I'll show you this way. It gives me this decimal. Now, we know it's supposed to equal 1 over 81. So if you go math, frac, so if I go to my math menu, the first option is frac. It'll take that answer, turn it into a fraction, 1 over 81. So I'm golden, I'm good. This next one, if I were to do this in the calculator, it would be, make sure you put this all in parentheses. So 1 over 625. I don't know if so I need to put this in parentheses before I actually raise it to a power, because otherwise it might mess me up. So 1 over 625. Then I'm going to raise it to the 3/4 power. I get something funky. So here's what you would type in the calculator. Again, I can use that math frac button. 1 over 125. So this next one, 125 to the negative 2/3. Going to use the calculator. Let's try it again. 125 to the negative 2/3. 0.04. And if I go math frac, 1 over 25. Last but not least, I have 1/8. So 1 divided by 8 to the negative 2 divided by 3 gives me 4. So again, for these, especially when you're doing numbers, use the calculator. Let's see. Okay, so to finish us off for today, we're going to talk about the product rule and the quotient rule when we have rational exponents. So essentially with the product rule, you'll notice that we have the same variables here. So I'm going to put this away for a second. When we talk about having, actually I need that back. Okay. Sorry, bear with me. Here we go. Okay. So when we talk about having the product rule and the quotient rule, it's important to notice if the variables are the same. In these, I do have the same variable. I have W both times and I have U both times. So with the product rule, that's multiplication. So when you multiply like bases, you add the exponents. So for this one, I really have W to the 1/2 plus 4/5, all up in the power. So what I'm going to figure out is how can I actually add these two fractions? Well, I can make common denominators. Think back to our previous unit. The least common denominator would be a 10. So if I multiply this by 5/5 and this by 2/2, I get W to the 5/10 plus 8/10, which is W to the 13/10. And that fraction does not reduce, so I know that I'm good. If you also wanted to do this in the calculator, fractions are division, so 1/2 plus 4/5 gives me a decimal. Math frac is your friend, 13/10. So I'm there again. If I do U to the 7/8, and then I'm multiplying, so I'm going to add that fraction, 3/4. My least common multiple or least common denominator is actually 8. So the only number I need to change is this 3/4 by multiplying it by 2/2. That's U to the 7/8 plus 6/8, which is U to the 13/8. And if I did it again in the calculator, 7 divided by 8 plus 3 divided by 4, enter. I get a decimal, math frac. It'll give you that same fraction. So with product rule, we add the exponents. In case you aren't kind of thinking ahead, I wonder what'll happen next. Well, if you divide like bases, you subtract the exponents. So for this one, I have both W's. So I have W to the 2/7 minus 3/5. I'm going to save myself some time. I'm going to do this in the calculator. 2 divided by 7 minus 3 divided by 5. I get a fraction, math frac. It's negative 11/35. So this is negative 11/35. And if you remember back to up above, when we have that negative exponent, we do 1 over. So this is 1 over W, 11/35. Last one, we have Y to the 4/9. And then up in the exponent, we're subtracting 2/3. So I have 4 divided by 9 minus 2 divided by 3. Math frac. I get negative 2/9. But if I think back to, again, the negative exponent rule, that's really 1 over Y to the 2/9. And that is it. Enjoy the rest of your cold day.